droplets fall, a soft encore, a rhythm in the quiet morn. We are drops in the endless flight. But if you seek a storm that roars beneath the light, baby, I'm the peace before the fight. And you can dance in a storm till you wash away your trace. The droplets fall, a soft encore, a rhythm in the quiet morn. We are drops in the endless flight. But if you seek a storm that roars beneath the light, baby, I'm the peace before the fight. And you can dance in the storm till you wash away your trace. Droplets fall, a soft encore, rhythm in the quiet morn. We are drops in the endless flight. But if you seek a storm that roars beneath the light, baby, I'm the peace before the fight. And you can dance in the storm till you wash away the trace. The drop is soft encore, rhythm in the quiet morn. We are drops in the endless flight. But if you see the storm that roars beneath the light, baby, I'm the peace before the fight. And you can dance in the storm till you wash away a trace. adventure is never done. Every corner we turn,
in tow. It's time to start the magic on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know. Across the lands, hand in hand, we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode. On the Globus Show, it's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. Come along, join the fun in a world where adventure is never done. Every corner we turn, a new friend in tow. It's time to start the magic on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know. Across the lands, hand in hand, we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode.
On the Globus Show, on the Globus Show,
It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show.
on the Globus Show, on the Globus Show.
It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. On the Globus Show. On the Globus Show. On the Globus Show. On the Globus
Good morning, Twitch. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Buongiorno. Good morning, Red Hobbit. Good morning, TN. Good morning, Cosmic. Good morning, Adam. Hope everyone is enjoying their Monday in as much as you are capable of doing so. Friendly reminder that today's evening show will not be happening. It's moved to tomorrow. Other than that, not a whole lot. Schedule will be going back to 7:30 a.m. For the rest of the week for the morning show. Time to learn and grow on the morning show. So yes, 7:30 a.m. for the morning show. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday for the evening show this week. And without further ado, thank you for ruining my life. I'm literally an algorithm designed to maintain your attention by learning from your behavior and mirroring back that which, consciously or not, captivates you and the social worlds through which you move. I'm literally one of the most fascinating tools for collective and personal shadow work ever created. That is, only if you can learn to recognize that you aren't disturbed by social media, you're disturbed by your own reflection. And I'm going to open this today um, with a Malcolm X quote. Don't be in such a hurry to condemn a person because he doesn't do what you do or think as you think. There was a time when you didn't know what you know today. Something to think about, something to keep in your mind when you're laying out your judgments against people who don't know what you know. I mean, there's limits. I'm not an absolutist, old lobster. Good morning, old lobster, right? Like, I'm not an absolutist by any stretch of the imagination. Should we enter into, like, pretty much the answer, well, what's your limits? It's it's Nazis, right? Everybody but Nazis by any means necessary. Speaking, as Cosmic pointed out, speaking of GPT 4.0, they rolled out a Google Drive integration, or are in the process of rolling out. While most people were excited about the conversation and vision features of ChatGPT 4 Omni, the one of the more under the radar updates is the Google Drive and OneDrive integration. OpenAI took to X, formerly known as Twitter, to announce that the integration is rolling out now to some users, so you won't have to wait long to start feeding files from the cloud into the AI tool. On X, OpenAI said cloud integration is rolling out now. However, the company also noted that it's available to ChatGPT Plus team and enterprise users over the coming weeks. That means you need to be a paying member to get access, and you may not see the functionality right away, as it appears to be a gradual rollout. According to OpenAI, the integration between ChatGPT and Google Drive or OneDrive means that it can read through Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and Google Drive files like Sheets more quickly than it has been able to do before. Additionally, OpenAI is adding the ability to interact with charts it generates through a new expandable view. Once created, the charts generated by a ChatGPT 4 Omni will better fit users' needs. Currently, bar, line, pie, and scatter plot charts are supported for interactive visualizations. For other types of charts, ChatGPT will generate static versions. Morning Bank. The amount of time you can save by having charts and graphs generated for you seems substantial, and it'll be interesting to see how paid ChatGPT members can use these new features to speed up workflows. So that'll be an interesting thing to use. Yeah, I have access to Omni, um, but yes, like it's my understanding is that it's somewhat limited at this point in time. From the register, when AI helps you code, who owns the finished product? It's not settled law, and it's going to mean trouble. This is an opinion piece from Mark Pesci. I've been writing software for almost half a century, and my recent experiences with AI suggest that developers may soon find ourselves in a very sticky situation. I say that having started with 8085 assembly code, then moving on to C, C, Java. Once the web came along, I learned the three P's: Perl, PHP, and Python. Python stuck. More than 2 decades later, remains my go to language. I'm far from alone. These days, many introductory computing courses teach Python. This means most scientists and engineers have at least a passing familiarity with it, so when they need to code something, they use Python. Enormous libraries of Python solutions can therefore be found online. If you have a coding problem, chances are that someone has already solved it. This explains why Python became the de facto language for machine learning and artificial intelligence. Researchers working on ML algorithms want to test their hypotheses and optimize their approaches without having to sweat the details of the code. With Python, researchers don't have to put a lot of effort into their code. Instead, they can focus on the problem they're solving. That kicked off a virtuous cycle of development. Pretty much everything in artificial intelligence today, except for the lowest level, tightest loops of bit banging and matrix multiplications, is written in Python. And like Python is a very it makes sense, right? Like ultimately, that's what I say about Python. And when people talk about, I think I would like to learn to code. Why I recommend Python, and I'm not by any means an expert. I am super noob. I've taken one course and I have written almost nothing, but it makes sense to me, right? Like I can sit down with Python and it makes sense. It's if you understand English, it is easy to understand, easier to understand Python. Recently, an attorney who specializes in IP law requested my assistance prototyping a tool he dreamed up, using generative AI to automate some of the boring, fiddly bits of research that IP lawyers do daily. I leapt at the opportunity to get my hands into a bit of product oriented AI coding and realized I could even take advantage of a bit of AI myself using ChatGPT 4. All five of the big foundation models, GPT 4, Copilot, Gemini, Anthropic's Claude, and Meta, were fed trillions of tokens of text during their lengthy training, including pretty much every last example of source code that could be scraped off the open web and open source code repositories. Repositories. Open source code repositories. A lot of that code is Python, which means all of these models can do a decent job writing Python. Knowing this, I wanted to learn if I could use AI to 10x myself. Could I make software 10 times faster using AI than I could just using my wetware? To test the idea, I soon learned that I'd have to adapt my playful coding approach to something more rigorous. Did I understand the problem I wanted to solve? Could I express it clearly? Could I communicate my understanding to the AI in a sufficiently direct and unambiguous prompt that it would generate the response I sought? That was my first big aha moment. To realize the benefits of AI, I'd have to completely rework my workflow into something much more formal, considered, and structured. A process a lot less fun than idly flipping from editor to command line. Working with an AI as an accelerator transforms the work. If I hadn't already been coding for at least half a century, it would have taken me a lot longer to intuit how I needed to change my practice, conforming myself to what the AI demands. As it is, I see what I need to do, though I am resisting. And this is an interesting question about people who are learning to code in the now. If you are learning to code while using an AI assistant, then you are also going to be better at using the AI assistant to help you with code. Now, there may be some loss related to people who become naturally fluent in, for instance, Python. Um, but at this point in time, I'm not aware of any basis for comparison because it hasn't been around long enough. I found the best way to with GPT is to break the coding into individual tasks so the assembled code will work properly, and that has to do with its context window, right? Like it can only remember so much. Now, some of the new things, the Gemini with its million token window, allegedly might provide you with the ability to have more code on deck in the model, and then there might be something with the Google Drive, OneDrive aspect of uh, GPT-4 Omni that might give you the ability to, um, draw on more of the code. I think. it feels less fun that way. And then again, and that's always going to be the nature of the trade-off. Sure, you can work faster, but you probably won't enjoy the process. I mean, it depends. However, when faced with writing a function to extract a set of relevant data from a huge and deeply nested XML document, I relished the assistance of GPT 4. I could have spent a day writing bits of code exploring Python's XML module. I did throw an hour at the problem before deciding this work could be better performed by the AI. It took me a few minutes to structure an effective prompt and fed that in along with an example of an XML file, a one-shot prompt. AI quickly gave me a function that fit the bill perfectly and even ran first time. But after a few modifications, it became clear that I didn't understand the structure of the XML document, and the AI generated code reflected my poor understanding. That led to my second aha moment. Garbage in, garbage out. Absolutely. Um, but with the part about, first of all, spending a few minutes to structure an effective prompt is probably less time than it would take you to do the thing normally. Um, and once you get an effective prompt, you can always use that later. You know what I mean? It's just, you save that prompt in, whatever you save your prompts into, and then you can edit for need, right? Like as you're working on something that is different, then you just edit the parts of the prompt that refer to the one action and into the new action. I prompted GPT-4 to modify the function to reflect my deeper understanding. It generated a new version of the function. I pasted that into my code, then added single line additions, tuning it to my specific needs. I got it to a point where around 80% of the output was AI generated and 20% was my own work. That's when I had my third and biggest aha moment. Whose code is this? In the age of AI, one thing the legal system has so far been unambiguously clear on revolves around the ownership of AI generated content. As it has not been created by a human being, it cannot be copyrighted. The AI doesn't own it, the AI's creators don't own it, and whoever prompted the AI to generate this content doesn't own it either. That code cannot have an owner. And I'm fine with that. Who owns this code that I've written for this attorney? I plastered the copyright notice at the top of the source, as I've always done, but does that mean anything? A core function in this code is largely AI generated, and while the rest of my code may be artisanal, bespoke, human crafted Python, love that. Any coder working with an IDE hooked into GitHub Copilot or getting help from GPT-4 will likely create code containing so many AI written tidbits that it's very hard to know where the human ends and the machine begins. And so I ask you, right? Like, if the AI, its coding aspect, is built on um, the work of humans, right? Like if the code, is all built by humans and then it's incorporated into the AI data set, and then you use, if you were to do the process without the AI, then whose code is it, right? You just assembled the code of other people, right? What's the difference between 80% AI, 20% you, and 80% the ancestors, 20% you? You know what I mean? I think the answer is if you make it public to GPT, then it's public, it's open source, and anyone can see it. I personally, I go a step further and say that I'm fine with it all being no copyright, but that's me and others, but me. Take this once removed. If you read something online and it helps you come to the answer, does the person who wrote the helpful article also own part of the code? No, what a stupid question. And that's ultimately where I'm at with my 80% the ancestors and 20% you. It seems trivially easy to insert code and claim ownership. And, like, to some extent, it is, right? I will again use the example of OBS and Streamlabs OBS, right? OBS is open source, no one owns it. We all own it, right? Streamlabs did some additional code and added that to it, and then they released their own version of it, and you can use it for free, but it's highly implied to pay for, the additional services. So it is trivially easy to insert code and claim ownership. I'm not sure what the percentages would be for that. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, the Call of Dragons is still running for another 4 or 5 days. Um, and it's done well. The I hit level 11, um, but no one besides me has, as far as I know. But some other people have hit other milestones, which is cool. Is any of that code copyrightable, or is all the software we're writing today so thoroughly compromised it might no longer be defensible as a work protected by copyright? I mean, you could make that argument, right? Like, let's say you went through. Let's take copyright as writing. If you go through and you write all your own code, right? Like from jump, I am going to write all these things. I'm not going to use Stack Overflow. I'm not going to use GitHub. I'm not going to use any AI tools. I'm just going to sit here and code all this until it's done and it works. You would, by copyright, own that whole thing. Even if chunks of that code are reflective of other code that you already learned, right? Someone else's code that you already learned. And this is why the entire thing around AI art breaks down is it's the same thing. It's all the same. You don't create anything brand new. You can't just sit down and start typing in Python. You have to learn the Python. Who do you learn the Python from? You learn from someone else who knows how to teach the Python, and a bunch of the code that you're going to learn to type is going to be related to, stuff that's not yours. It is impossible to create something new from whole cloth. It is impossible. It does not work. It never happens. It never has happened. Never once in the history of humanity has anyone created something 100% uniquely new. Can't do it. Can't. Can't. Possible. I asked the attorney who brought me in to solve their problem. Well, you own the copyright over the compilation, he said, pointing to a recent ruling where an author was awarded copyright over an AI generated collection of texts because of their role as curator in that collection. What does that mean for source code, where one line may be human written and therefore protected, while the next line may be AI generated and unprotected? It's a mess, the attorney admitted. We run into this mess at ludicrous speed, blithely unaware that using these AI powered coding tools turns the copyright protections every software firm takes for granted into sort of a Swiss cheese of loopholes, exceptions, and issues to eventually be tested in court cases. I rarely say that there are simple solutions to complex problems, and even this one isn't really a simple solution to a complex problem. But let's just scrap the entire idea of copyright and IP, and then we'll have a simple solution to the complex problem. The non simple part of that is unraveling all of the things, because you can't just yank something out of something, right? You have to undo the entire system. Do you want mass transit? Do you want all that kind of stuff? Then you have to unpick so many things that are related to American, and not only American, but speaking specifically about America, the American society, right? Like, you can't just all of a sudden one day say no more cars, all buses, like that, and just and it's going to go off without a hitch, right? We have created this environment. We would have to undo this environment. Fine, come on, dude. Come on. Now you don't want to come up. Seems unlikely commercial organizations will turn their back on the productivity increase promised by AI coding tools. The allure of 10xing an engineering team will almost certainly drown out any of the risks voiced by a legal department that urges caution. Blasting ahead at full speed will work until it doesn't. When some major software company learns their crown jewels have been ablated away by the consistent incorporation of generative AI. By then, it will be far too late for anyone else. And you throw a little registered trademark at the end. um, yeah. From an opinion piece, a guest essay from NYT. Press pause on the Silicon Valley hype machine. It's a little hard to believe that just over a year ago, a group of leading researchers asked for a 6-month pause in the development of larger systems of artificial intelligence, fearing that the systems would become too powerful. Should we risk loss of control of our civilization? They asked. I love, if you, Morning Scoyo, Elder Gang, if you go back and read the pause letter, it is filled with a whole bunch of stuff that makes sense if you don't think about it too much. And this is one of the things. Should we risk the loss of control of our civilization? Who exactly has control? What exactly do we mean by civilization? And who is risking the loss of control? Because I can tell you that I don't have control of the civilization. I don't believe that most of you have control of the civilization. I don't believe that there's an organization that has control of the civilization. right? If we confine this to Western neoliberal capitalist civilization, who has control of that? Exactly. The invisible hand? Is it hamburger helper time out here? Not even the humans, right? It's a complex system. That's like saying you have control over an ecology, right? No one has control over the Amazon forest. Even the people who cut it down don't have control over it because the very act of cutting it down introduces all sorts of random unforeseen effects that then turn around and come back at them, right? The entire premise for was it Contagion, right? It was China, but any wilderness, bears, right? Shout out to the James from the internet folk with the bears, right? You encroach on the bears' territory and then get bears, right? Big surprise. There was no pause. But now, a year later, the question isn't really whether AI is too smart and will take over the world, it's whether AI is too stupid and unreliable to be useful. Consider this week's announcement from OpenAI's chief executive Sam Altman, who promised he would unveil new stuff that feels like magic to me. But it was just a rather routine update that makes ChatGPT cheaper and faster. I love New York Times. Like the idea that New York Times they're literally suing OpenAI, right? Like, and I'm not saying that any information that the New York Times issues is inaccurate or any of that nonsense. I'm saying that the New York Times is prone by its environment to promote things that are, let's say, not exactly AI positive. I would need data to stand on that, but let's say it's my gut, right? This is not an accusation. That's what my gut says. How about that? It feels like another sign that AI is not even close to living up to its hype. In my eyes, it's looking less like an all powerful being and more like a bad intern whose work is so unreliable that it's often easier to do the task yourself. That realization has real implications for the way we, our employers, and our government should deal with Silicon Valley's latest dazzling new thing. I mean, there's this guy who would beg to differ, but I guess fuck that guy, right? Um, Acknowledging AI's flaws could help us invest our resources more efficiently and also allow us to turn our attention toward more realistic solutions. Others voice similar concerns. Some people are saying, many people are saying, I do a terrible Trump and I don't care. I find my feelings about AI are actually pretty similar to my feelings about blockchains. They do a poor job of much of what people try to do with them. They can't do the things their creators claim they one day might. And many of the things they are well suited to do may not be altogether that beneficial, wrote Molly White, a cryptocurrency researcher and critic. Is that it? Are we going to get tanked by this? Yeah, that's fine. You see where this is going. We'll move on. Chinese biotech crackdown would reset U.S. drug development. Lawmakers in the House of Representatives on Wednesday are expected to set in motion a massive reordering of how U.S. pharmaceuticals are developed and made by advancing a contracting ban on five key Chinese research firms. Why it matters. It's a sign of how trade and national security concerns have spread from steel, semiconductors, and TikTok to the life sciences, where U.S. biotechs and drug makers are highly reliant on China for testing, ingredients, and in some cases, manufacturing. The big picture: the bipartisan Biosecure Act would, by 2032, end U.S. contracting with Chinese firms like Wuxi AppTech and others deemed a threat to national security, effectively locking them out of the market. U.S. companies' workarounds could bode well for rival genomics companies like Illu- Illumina, and Samsung. But the crackdown could also bring higher drug prices and even the specter of more shortages if key ingredients get scarce or supply chains get squeezed. The bill's sponsors say they're concerned Chinese companies collect genetic information that could be used to develop targeted bioweapons. Jesus Christ. Stop. Stop. Just watch Jurassic Park, right? Jurassic Park, you know, driving the news. The legislation is expected to advance by a wide margin in the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday. It's likely to be folded into the annual defense authorization bill later this year, though the outcome of the election and control of Congress could complicate prospects. Um, I would say no. I would say no, right? Like, it's definitely a situation where yeah, I was thinking more Red Hobbit Life Finds a Way. You create a targeted bioweapon. Um, let's say that you could do such a thing. Once you let a targeted bioweapon out into the wild, it's almost guaranteed to mutate unless you have some super magic way of preventing it from doing that. And then you have blowback. When is this from? We got a date. We're not putting date. Here we go. May 15th. So this was 5 days ago. So it's talking about this Wednesday. Friction points. The Senate version of the bill doesn't forecast a major effect on drug access or pricing. Why wouldn't it? Almost like they're not paying attention to an obvious conclusion that anyone can make. Right, and that's the other thing, right? Like, if assuming that people can't take your bioweapon, one, they're going to look to create a vaccine for your bioweapon, and two, they're going to send it right back at you with all new features. So it's like silly pants. Um, the House version could be deemed to hurt drug development and possibly add significant cost to federal programs, said Max Reel, analyst for Compass Point. That could derail the bill or force major revisions, he wrote in a note this week. After expressing reservations about earlier bill drafts that would have forced U.S. companies to cut Chinese ties much earlier, the trade group representing U.S. biotechs said legislation now strikes the right balance between national security and maintaining the biopharmaceutical supply chain. In the meantime, the government and private sector will need to invest tens of billions of dollars in building up domestic drug manufacturing to help keep the biotech industry afloat. It's going to require a massive and coordinated effort to replace the capacity and capabilities that will go away, but we've got time now to do that. Major drug companies like Novartis have already started making plans to sever ties with Chinese contract manufacturers in anticipation of the bill becoming law. Policymakers more broadly have sought to crack down on China's involvement in the American healthcare sector in recent months. Biden administration on Tuesday raised tariffs on Chinese medical supplies for items that it said were critical to the COVID-19 response, such as syringes and personal protective equipment. That's a whole sentence. The Biden administration on Tuesday raised tariffs, right? That means it's going to cost more. It's not like the Chinese government is paying more for us to import these critical COVID-19 pieces of material. Morning, Dame Karen. House Oversight Chair James Comer earlier this month pushed the National Institute of Health to explain how the Biomedical Research Agency prevents Chinese government influence in its work. Jesus Christ. That is something to say. I do think you're seeing a trade war develop between China and the U.S. on health related items, said Chris Meekins, managing director at Raymond James. Oh, oh, Lordy. Troubles. The loneliness of the robotic humanoid. Humanoid robots are all the rage, but Agility's Digit was a singular presence at this year's Modex. Oh, we did this one. I'm sorry. We did this one. They snuck this one by me. Google. Artificial tactile systems study. Robot sense of touch could be as fast as human. Researchers at Uppsala University and Karolinska Institutet could pave the way for a prosthetic hand and robot to be able to feel touch like a human hand. Their study has been published in the journal Science. The technology could also be used to help restore lost functionality to patients after a stroke. Our system can determine what type of object it encounters as fast as a blindfolded person just by feeling it and deciding whether it is a tennis ball or an apple, for example. Performed the study in close cooperation with researchers, provided data processing machine learning expertise. Drawing inspiration from neuroscience, they have developed an artificial tactile system that imitates the way the human nervous system reacts to touch. The system uses electrical pulses that process dynamic tactile information in the same way as the human nervous system. With this technology, a prosthetic hand would feel like part of the wearer's body. And that's the thing. It's like what people have to remember, right? The especially the humans are special crowd. It's all just electricity, right? When you touch something, it's electricity. It's all electricity. There's nothing in the physics that says that you can't do this. The artificial system has three main components: an electronic skin, e-skin, with sensors that can detect pressure by touch, a set of artificial neurons that convert analog touch signals into electrical pulses, and a processor that processes the signals and identifies the object. In principle, it can learn to identify an unlimited number of objects, but in their tests, the researchers have used 22 different objects for grasping and 16 different surfaces for touching. Morning, Eclipse Pro. Looks like you've been banned somewhere, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Not here. Morning, Keepers, Potato Clocks. Yeah, you got banned somewhere. Posadabot didn't say where. Um, but it's okay. I'm banned somewhere. We're also looking into developing the system so it can feel pain and heat as well. It should also be able to feel what material the hand is touching, for example, whether it's wood or metal. According to the researchers, interactions between humans and robots or prosthetic hands can be made safer and more natural thanks to tactile feedback. The prosthe- prostheses can also be given the ability to handle objects with the same dexterity as a human hand. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why, like, I treat people as like as they behave. Right? You come into the space, you're cool, you contribute, you're quiet, you just hang out. Any of that stuff, it's all good. Right? People get banned for strange reasons, and sometimes, in my opinion. Um, Now, if you're banned in a whole bunch of places, then that's of course another animal. China is still waiting for its ChatGPT moment, says AI expert Kai Fu Lee. For Americans, that moment happened 17 months ago. The Beijing startup founded by technology pioneer Kai Fu Lee is introducing its first artificial intelligence applications for consumers, a step aimed at helping China capitalize on the promising technology. Lee's firm, O1 AI, is launching a free productivity assistant called Wanji, the latest in a series of AI products it's developing. Similar to Microsoft 365 Copilot, it helps users create spreadsheets, documents, and slide presentations more quickly, though it's mainly tailored for the Chinese market. It can interpret financial reports, take minutes for meetings, and speed read books as long as Elon Musk's 600,000 word biography to give a quick synopsis. The app works in Chinese and English. Um, they got an insider. I don't know what you mean, Dame Karen. In an interview with Bloomberg, Lee said that China needs its own chat GPT to accelerate interest, adoption, can approach AI in an... Oh, 100%. 100%. We can't approach any of this stuff. Like this entire bit earlier where we're cracking down on Chinese biotech is silly business. The fact that we raised tariffs, and by we I mean the United States, I had nothing to do with it. But the way that the United States has increased tariffs on electric vehicles and solar panels flies directly in the face of trying to mobilize the world in order to compensate for human created climate change in a amount of time that can actually have, some meaningful effect, right? Like all of this is shenanigans. Exactly. And not that, again, I'm not all states are bastards. That includes the United States and China and whoever your favorite country is. I hate them all. Right? The very structure of the entire thing causes more problems than it solves. Blah, 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 blah. Software developers will be able to use the Yi large model at competitive prices. Lee says the model's application programming interface will cost $250 for 1 million input tokens and $12 for 1 million output tokens. About a million tokens lets a developer send roughly 250 queries back and forth. It's far less with Then with OpenAI's GPT-4 Turbo, our model has been trained on H100s, legally brought into China. Necessity is a mother of invention. We squeeze everything we can from the compute available. Yeah, no, and that's the thing is even if you equate it to a sports team, right? Like, I am a fan. I'm a fan of the Buffalo Bills, right? Sports team, football. I'm also a fan of the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not loyal to one of these teams because they are a corporation. What yikes! I enjoy football. It is what it is, right? I like what Canada Dry. I I'm not getting into sports ball. The point is corporation, right? Corporation provides you with a product or service. When the product or service is not good, if you remain loyal to a corporation when the product or service is not good, you're silly. Same is true of governments. If the governments are not providing you with goods or services, your loyalty is silly. AI eats the web. Scott Rosenberg. Google's shift towards AI generated search results, displacing the familiar list of links, is rewiring the internet and could accelerate the decline of the 30-year-old World Wide Web. It's a bold statement. Also, I don't like what are people doing in their Google search? It was like Cody, fucking Cody, right? Whenever Cody whips his dick out and talks about AI or even the internet in this case, he gets so far out of his element just to make his jokey joke points that he talks shit, right? If you Google car, he says, um, you should end up with a definition of a car, not an organization that is known by the acronym CAR. Baby, I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me baby. Thank you for the follow. Right? Like, dude, who Googles car? Right? Like, who just who Googles a single word? Like, and again, I'm not experiencing what everyone else is complaining about. And I think that the concept of the enshittification of the internet, while real, is also overblown. I think y'all are lazy. While that the internet we know of is only 30 years old, oh, absolutely. Like I was here when this was all grass and farmland. Um, Actually, sports can be a good example. Like in cricket, we had a tragic death of a young batsman not long ago. They have now altered the helmets to combat such a thing happening again. Obviously, everyone knows about this technology advancement because it's safety for all, not a national advantage. Yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good example, right? Like that's the way that the approach needs to be done. Is this an advantage for everybody? Does this provide for everybody? Then it should be available for everyone, not extracting change out of your pocket in order to, make some particular entity more tiny bits of paper or ones and zeros for whatever reason that you collect such things. A world where Google answers most questions in a single machine voice makes online life more convenient and duller. On occasion, when my internet connection is temporarily unavailable, I find myself attempting to utilize Google. Such instances, the first word that invariably comes to mind is hello. Consequently, I end up typing just hello and amusingly chuckle at the absurdity of it all. That is great. What's funny for me about that is that what things like the LLMs are precursors of, especially as related to search, is the idea of the conversational interface, where I am not going to, you know, code with prompts of specificity in order to create something. I'm going to ask for what I want, and then the machine is going to provide that to me. So, saying hello to the future machine is the way that we're going to act. Like, you're going to have your own wake up word or whatever it is, whether it's the name of your AI or what have you, or Siri or whatever, and you are going to interact with the future conversational interaction in that way. Hello world, name your AI world and see what happens. A world, we did that. The change also threatens to cut into Google's revenue from search ads and starve future AIs of the human data they'll need. Driving the news, Google has steadily ramped up its AI generated results since ChatGPT came on the scene in 2022, and this week it announced it was rolling out AI overviews to everyone in the US. Now, I've been using an AI overview for some time. I didn't realize it was something that I opted into. I might have at the time, but now it's just my preferred way of search. That means the world's most popular search engine will answer many or most queries with a paragraph or two written by generative AI. The system still relies on web based information, but it doesn't nourish the creators of that information with users' visits. Almost like we need a different system other than compensation for clicks or ad revenue or that kind of stuff. Wild. Publisher and retailers are terrified that this will cut deep into their referral traffic and decimate their businesses. There's even deeper damage likely to be wreaked by Google Shift. Um, by making it even less inviting for humans to contribute to the web's collective pool of knowledge, Google's summary answers could also leave its own and everyone else's AI tools with less accurate, less timely, and less interesting information. Case in point, at Google's I/O event Tuesday, VP, I was talking about you, not to you, Rose Yao showed off Google Lens's ability to interpret images from live smartphone video. She pointed her phone at a busted turntable and said she didn't know what was wrong or even how to begin fixing it. The long thing kept sliding off the records instead of playing them. The long thing? Is that what she said? Or do you not know it's called an arm? Oh, okay. So that's what she said. My bad. Um, but she didn't know its name, so how could she even begin to write a search query? Google's AI told her it was called a tone arm. It identified the turntable's make and model and instructed her how to fix it. This sounds like an unequivocal good, but let's do the but. That's certainly cool, and it's arguably more efficient than how you might have sought answers decades ago. Back then, you'd have read a few pages yourself, or maybe you go to some enthusiast forum or blog to to ask your question. Those are always fun. One of my favorite things about using a forum is when you use their little search tool and nothing comes back reflective of your problem. So then you ask your problem and are immediately told by some person to use the search tool and like that. It's great. It's a great experience. I love that experience. It's awesome. you'd receive a welter of cantankerous but knowledgeable replies. The heavy on the cantankerous, maybe not the knowledgeable. Veined with a little condescension, maybe, but also plenty of personality. Oh, who loves some personality? In that world, most answers you found came with a human face and voice. It's hard to see why people would bother contributing their expertise if their posts don't get visited by seekers of information and instead just become fodder for AI to regurgitate. So, this comes back to something that I talk about all the time and is part of the personal philosophy of being me. What do you want out of this scenario? Do you want the thing or do you want credit? If you want the thing, then it doesn't matter. You will put it into the database for other people to use so that that knowledge, and this is a great part, we can eventually reach a point where you don't have to put it into the database. Your personal AI can catalog that information for you. If you want credit, well, that's something else entirely. When I put ideas out into the ether, I just want the thing. I don't care who makes it. I care that it's not free, but I want access to this thing. I don't care about credit. I just care about results. Tried this with more ambiguous parts and it really struggles, even if you tell it directly the make, model, and the case of the use case of the device. This was the thing specifically. It's a clamp for a knife sharpener. Is this using Google's Gemini? And see, I'm looking at this and I know exactly what this does, right? This part here, the C part, clamps onto one thing, and then this screw is to hold it in place, and then this, I can tell, has a hole in it, which I can kind of see here, for a rod to stick into, and then this holds that in place. Now, what you would call this is some sort of clamp, right? Or I don't friggin' know. Like I currently, if you've ever done one of those put together beds with the long bolts with the Allen key on the other end of the bolt that goes into the wood, you'll have some sort of part of varying shape. And the only thing that this particular one, the only thing that I can think that it might be called is a barrel nut, because it's kind of like a barrel. No, not those, right? Like, because there's the one where you put the thing in and then you turn this end and it locks it in place. No, this is like a, it's like a barrel of metal, right, with a hole through it that has the threads so you can screw into it that way. So I'm, I haven't done the chat GPT. I'm going to go to the hardware store and ask them if they have it. Because if they don't have it, then it's internet time. But it's just one of those things. It's like, what is it called? I call it a barrel nut because it's the shape of a barrel and it acts as a nut. What were we doing? Oh, we were doing this still. Today's web exists because millions of people have spent decades extending it with bits of knowledge, lore, and images, and also a shit ton of garbage. Dude, I'm putting on my old man hat for a second. It's so hard to find an honest to God hardware store and not a Lowe's or some shit. I mean, my local hardware store is a chain, but it's a small chain. Um, yeah, I like if I needed to go to like a hardware store, there's a yeah, no, my local is an Ace. But there's a place called Hector's, and I think Hector's is a standalone. But I would have to drive like all the way out to Cheektowaga to go there. That kind of thing. Sometimes you might find a small town that has their own little hardware store, but even those are vanishing. Um, some of them though, some of them are like I remember going into um this little place in the city, and they like they had like the pull out boxes, not like the neat organized boxes, but like just the big dumpster of various parts, and you could poke through that. But like that's the thing about the city is a lot of that stuff is if you have old stuff, right? Like if you have old doors, the mechanism for um the door closure and the locking bar and everything else, that thing is like this big, right? And it fits inside the door, and you got your fancy little glass crystal looking knobs and shit like that. But that can be hard to find. There are literally stores that recover that shit when people do remodels, and they take that stuff, and you can go buy this old, equipment for building houses to fix your own shit. Yeah, because it's a whole thing. You gotta, when you're doing the sharpening, you gotta hold it at the right angle in order to do the thing. Yes, fixing you don't fix new door handles, you replace them. And most of them are like very thin metal. These humans contributed with a variety of goals to burnish their reputation and win status, to help others out, or to meet like minded people. Okay? None of this is preventing like minded people from not going to the forum. Helping others out, they're still helping others out. Burnishing your reputation and win status, well, then that goes to the question: do you want credit, or do you want um, results? And in this case, people who want credit, you're going to have to create a website that puts it behind some locking mechanism to prevent the AI from getting at it. Like, I don't know, updating your robot TXT, or having like a sign in kind of thing or whatever. Money has always been a big factor too, but key feeders of the data pool shaving today's AI, like Wikipedia, Reddit, and the remnants of the old blogosphere of the 2000s, were built without much of a profit incentive. What? No profit incentive? That's wild. If Google answers most of the world's questions using a single AI voice, then there's that much less incentive for anyone to share their expertise and creativity on the web. Why? Why is that the case? You have to justify this. You can't just say it. You have to justify it. Google's AI offers citations in traditional search results, which will be shoved lower down on the results page below the AI summaries. That means plenty of web traffic will continue to work the way it always has, the search giant argues. Social media platforms started the slow dismantlement of the open web long before Google started doing AI summaries. Facebook, Twitter, and their competitors diverted much of the energy that built the web into conversations that were taking place in giant privately owned malls rather than public space. The internet has never been free, my guy. You always had to pay to get to the internet. I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm saying that this person is talking like there was some olden days where the internet was free. The internet was never free, right? Even the implication of the AOL disk was that you would use the disk and then pay a monthly fee to get on AOL. The internet has never been free. Yeah, the internet has never been for us. These transformations are taking place over years. Dial-up wasn't free because, like, even if there's some shenanigans that I'm not aware of, right? Like, oh, all you needed to do was just dial this number and connect into this thing, and then you had access to the BBS, that in order to do the thing, you still had to pay for the phone, right? Like that, it has never been free. Yeah, I don't disagree, Dave Karen. I think that, like, I am that radical of when I start talking about, um, like people's needs, right? Like, and how I believe that we need a system that provides the basic needs for people. Internet is in there. There is not, like, I don't care. I'm not going to justify it to anyone. I don't care. Internet is a requirement to be in the basket of free stuff for everyone. That's it. All right. That's going to be it. And that's going to be it for today. I am sure that I'll see some of you in various other streams around Twitch. I will be back tomorrow. Should be at 7:30 a.m. Um, what up, Noah? Thank you. I'm glad my stream met with your approval. Seriously though, like, yes, do I like subs? I like subs, right? Do I like follows? I like follows. Um, but I never want this relationship to be transactional. If you want to sub, then you get the emotes and you help support the channel and help offset some of my expenses, and I appreciate the shit out of that. But I can't get into a mindset of making my stream transactional. Right? I want to eliminate as many transactional relationships from my experience. But $4.99 free with a Twitch Prime, or gifted a sub by one of our beautiful community members. There will always be a sub goal because it's fun, I guess. I don't know. I appreciate you all. Let me raid you over somewhere. On the Glovis Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Glovis Show. Here, I'm going to give you another one. I've been giving y'all some new and interesting places to go, portions of Twitch that you might not have been aware of. This is Midnight Sumo. Midnight Sumo does Japanese culture, and sumo wrestling, like authentic from Japan type, um, sumo wrestling. They run videos, so it's not like there's somebody obviously running the channel because you need that. But I don't know. I've never interacted with Midnight Sumo. It's just started following Midnight Sumo a few months ago. Yeah, no, it's cool, right? Like that's the thing. There is more. There is more between heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio. Like there is so much stuff on Twitch that's just outside of the same old, or people getting angry about such and such, and and like that. And I'm not saying there isn't value in any of that. I'm saying that sometimes it's good to metaphorically touch grass, right? And just check out some of the wonderful shit that's going on in the world. I'll be back tomorrow, probably at 7:30 a.m. and then Tuesday we're gonna do some special expose type thing. Drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot, and always remember that Chuggy loves you, and so do I. Be great.